So this video is going to be a little bit different from maybe some of the other videos about how people organise their baby dresses on YouTube, because I want to go through how I've organised my baby's chest of drawers over the first few years. I want to also include the rotation system I've done and how I store my baby's clothes, and obviously any mum tips as well as I picked up during that time. So to start with, I'm going to go through just a quick overview of the chest of drawers so you can see where everything is basically. So this is basically his chest of drawers, and I've turned it into a changing station as well. I actually chose this from IKEA, which is just a standard chest of drawers, and I've put this on top instead of going for a changing table because they tend to have less drawers and I just wanted more storage basically. But when you're putting a changing mat on top, I would also suggest having one that is fully wipeable, because as you can see, this has tiny little indents in it. So if your baby does a poo explosion, it can go inside the little indents and it can be really, really difficult to clean up. You can probably see here that I've actually got cracks in it from where I've been rubbing and cleaning it so much. Now the next thing on top is actually accessible nappies. Now whether you put this in your top drawer or anything like that, I think having nappies that are really accessible is super handy, so you're not having to leave baby on the changing mat unattended. I can just be changing his nappy and grab one here without having to leave him. And then all the other bits, so I have wipes, I have cotton wool, any sort of cleaning supplies are all here. So when baby's lying down, I can just grab them and do it. Now when it comes to actually what's inside the drawers, I tend to have these top two ones as clothes. So this will be one size and this will be the next one. And I'll actually touch on my rotation system later on. This bottom drawer is where I keep all the spare nappies, wipes, any sort of sleep sacks, bedding and blankets as well. I also keep in this one, just a bit more out the way. Then these small drawers is where I have any terry towels, I have bibs and muslins, then any other sort of miscellaneous things like nail files, clippers. I do have a few cloth nappies in there as well that we sort of tested out. And then the bottom one, again, is just extra bits that I just don't know where to store. So now I want to go into how I actually organise my baby's dresser or chest of drawers if you are British. And like I mentioned, I tend to have different sizes in different ones. So at the start, the top drawer was newborn and 0 to 1. I also had any 1 to 2 months in there as well, because these are all separate sizes. If you are wondering, aren't newborn and 0 to 1 month the same size? No, newborn tends to be around 7 to 8 pounds, whereas 0 to 1 month tends to go up more to 10 pounds. My baby didn't actually end up fitting in the newborn size because he was quite a big baby, so we only end up using the 0 to 1 month and the 1 to 2 months. But obviously, if you aren't sure what size your baby is going to be, I recommend just getting a mix. Just don't overbuy in one size. You can always buy later once they are here. But how I separated it out is obviously within the newborn sizes and the 0 to 1 month, and each of those sizes I separated out any bodysuits. I would have the short sleeve bodysuits or long sleeve bodysuits separated so I know what they all are. I then have a section for onesies or sleep suits, however you want to call them. And I didn't dress my baby in anything else really other than that, because they do sleep a lot and it is so much easier to put them into a onesie versus a tiny little outfit. So just take into account how you're planning on dressing your baby. This is how I did it, and it's just super, super simple. I just had a bodysuit and a onesie, and that was my day. So I did choose to fold my clothes, and that might seem a little bit excessive. I'm not saying that you need to do this at all. For me, it just made it so much easier where I could see everything, because it meant that I knew what was maybe in the wash when I need to do a wash, what I was running low on. Out of sight, out of mind is how I think. So I wanted to make sure that I see everything. If it works better for you just to have little bins, then that works great for you. I think it's just having it separated really does help, because I couldn't imagine trying to find and sift through newborn 0 to 1 month to try and just find a bodysuit to put on my baby. So that's a little tip, to have it at least separated in some way, whatever works for you, if it's folded or not, bins, separators, whatever. So that was the top drawer, and then the drawer underneath was then 0 to 3 months. And I would separate this out in a similar way. So bodysuits, I'd separate out if there's any shorts or long sleeve ones. I would have a section for onesies, but this time I did have a few leggings and tops in there as well. I didn't really dress him in this, and I ended up having about 10 leggings and not enough tops. I think it's just because I got a lot of secondhand things and I just happen to have loads of leggings. So it's obviously working out what type of clothes and how you're trying to dress your baby. And the only other difference this time is I put little bins at the end which contain hats and socks. So with socks you tend to have 0 to 6 months, so these socks would actually last obviously for 6 months. So I would then transfer these over into the next size as well. Now for 3 to 6 and 6 to 9 month clothes, I would also have the same setup. So separate out any onesies or sleep suits, bodysuits, and then anything like that. But I would change out anything that might be seasonal. So for example, he might not be wearing long sleeve bodysuits in summer, so these would actually be vests. And instead of sleep suits, I may then have more rompers in there as well. Now, when it goes to the 9 to 12 month clothing, this is where personally I prefer to dress my baby in leggings and tops. So these are things that I would now include in these drawers. So I have a section, I'll again have my bodysuits, I'd have something that they sleep in, then I'll have a section for tops, leggings, and then at the end I'll have the bins where they would have hats and socks as well. And I really don't think that you need to overcomplicate this at all. And I think whenever you see these videos, it can feel really overwhelming because obviously how someone has organized theirs is due to their personal preferences. So just think of it as layers. So the first one is the bodysuit, that's their underlayer that they wear. You know, change that out depending on the season, if it's short sleeve, if you prefer vest or anything like that. Next one is something that they might sleep in, or a onesie, for example. That could be the second layer. Then if as they get older, you might prefer to do them in tops. That again could be seen as that second layer. So have a section for tops and leggings. It doesn't need to be anything crazy. I prefer doing it this way. You might find something else works for you. And then finally at the end, it will be then like the accessories. So to top it all off, the socks, the hats, the glasses, anything like that. So I mentioned before that the top 2 drawers will be the clothes. And the benefit of this is, there's a couple of reasons. Once baby has grown out of the one size, you already have the size already. So if you find like, oh my gosh, my baby is no longer fitting into this, you can just open the next drawer and pick out the clothes in the next size up. You don't have to now sift through a whole bag to sort out the next size. It also means if you do have some in the wash, I've done this multiple times, things are drying or they're all in the wash and he's done multiple explosions, I'll just pick some out of the next size. I just need to sort it out when I am folding and doing the washing for it. But as part of my sort of rotation system is once I thought that the baby has grown out of one size, I would actually take all of those out of the drawer and I would separate them into the sizes. And I think particularly for the newborn drawer, once he had grown out of these, I separated them and put them into separate tiny bags. So I would have newborn vests, newborn onesies, 0 to 1 month vests, 0 to 1 month onesies, just because it felt very overwhelming when I did get all these clothes and I had just a pile of newborn clothes, but they were all separate sizes. So particularly with those, and you have less of them, I separated them out that way, which means when you do have your next baby, and when I do have my next baby, I know exactly what I can pull out. I'm probably not going to pull out the newborn size and just go straight to 0 to 1 month. I don't have to faff around later. But with the other sizes, for example, the 0 to 3 months, the 3 to 6 months, I just use a big bag, put them all into it. And the important thing here is making sure that I left a little note to say exactly what things were inside. And the importance of this is, one, you know exactly what you have. So if you were planning on having more children later on, you know what's there, what things you might need to buy again. If there's any things that you realize that you actually might need more of. And you also know, your babies might not be born in the same season. So I could look into my 0 to 3 month and go, oh, okay, I have 10 long sleeve bodysuits, but now I know that my next baby is going to be a summer baby. I need to get vest bodysuits, for example, instead, but I can still use the sleep suits. That's how I like to do my rotation system. And then I just store them into my garage, whatever. So something else that I wanted to include, because I feel like people don't always include this, is what clothes people hang up versus put in the chest of drawers. So things that I would hang up would be either bulkier sort of sweatshirts or literally bulkier items like pram suits and snowsuits I would hang up. Now that my baby's older, I also hang up his trousers because these again tend to be much thicker. I also do that with any thick sort of bodysuits as well that aren't necessarily sleep suits. They're more of going out outfits that are just like a one piece. Then sometimes what I do, especially with the smaller sizes, is if he has any going out outfits or matching outfits, I would hang them up as a set. You can obviously do this in your chest of drawers as well. If you have the space or if you do have a lot, I think using these little clips, and I actually think this is like a shower rail hook, is add it on and then you can keep your matching sets together little bit of a hack. A little bonus hack as well, now that it's here, is keeping a Vanish, Oxy or any sort of stain remover right next to where your washing basket is. So once your baby has done a blowout, because it's kind of inevitable, you can clean it up and put some of this on straight away, just to help minimize the potential of actually having a blowout. So that is a breakdown of my baby's wardrobe and his chest of drawers over the first year, hopefully to give you some insight of how I personally have organized my chest of drawers, but also how that has looked over the year, because obviously that can change slightly. And if you are into videos like this, where I do also talk about the nuances, then you're in the right place, because that is everything that I discuss on my social media and on my channel. So I'd love for you to join and like and subscribe. Bye.